Mr. Edit Man presents, what's the coolest thing your teacher has ever done? 1 week ago we watched a documentary in class and our teacher asked us to send him a MP3 with one sentence that would sum up the whole video. Today in class someone asked if he had listened to all of our MP3s. Our teacher then proceeded to fire up his computer and play a little song he made. The song consisted of all our one sentences to explain the documentary and they were all auto-tuned. He had made an awesome remix of our work. Hes awesome. Kindergarten. Just one of my awesome teacher experiences. But one that I remember fondly this time of year. We were reading the story of the gingerbread man, where the main line is the gingerbread saying you cannot catch me, I'm the gingerbread man, and then he runs away. Our teacher then tells us that she brought us a gingerbread man, but he ran away. We need to go catch him. So we go all around the school to different teachers' classes. It was a K-8 school, and they all played along saying that they just saw him and he ran that way. Eventually we end up back at her classroom where we all split up to find him. Sure enough, one of the girls screams out and we all gather around to see this giant gingerbread man our teacher made for us. And then we ate him. To sum it up, kindergarten teacher lead us on a chase around school looking for the gingerbread man. Still remember to this day at 25. In early elementary school our teachers used to do something similar on St. Patrick's Day. We'd come back to the classroom after lunch and the whole room would be a mess. Desks flipped over, chairs laying on their sides, papers scattered everywhere. The teacher would say, oh no, a leprechaun came in and destroyed the whole room. I have no idea why a leprechaun would do that. So it did not make a lot of sense. There was some explanation, but I cannot remember it. Then we'd trek all around the school looking for that bad leprechaun who ruined our classroom, and eventually we'd end up back in our room and it would be in perfect order and the leprechaun had left us a pot of gold, which was just those chocolate coins. And we'd feast upon the delicious cheap chocolate. It was awesome. My preschool class did the same thing, except when we found the room wrecked, we set up a box held up by a stick, which was tied to a golden coin. It was supposed to trap any thieving Irishman. When we eventually returned to the class, the trap had been sprung. Our teacher had us gather around and warned us that if any one of us blinked, the leprechaun would escape via magic. She then slowly lifted the box to show an empty trap. She sighed and said, oh well, I guess somebody blinked. It was from that day on that I knew my peers were incompetent and could never be trusted with any important responsibilities. My history teacher decided to play a fun game one day instead of class and brought a cake with a map of Africa drawn on it. She broke the class up into teams, which all got named after random countries. She told us there were Hershey's Kisses hidden inside of the cake, and each team would get 5 seconds to scoop out as much cake as they possibly could, so they could win the cake/game via most kisses. With the tools she gave us, England got a spatula, France got a spoon, some country got a toothpick, and we were chucking that cake into our plate, come our turn, as fast as we could. As the game went, we realized this was incredibly unfair. What? You think you're less prepared than England? Did you get so distracted at the prospect of gaining the most Africa a chocolate cake with white icing that you demolished what was a perfectly good continent and now feel ousted that England and France had better tools, were more industrialized than you? Belgian King Leopold declared to his army, bring me a slice of that African cake. She did a lot of things like this, and every time we felt trolled. But we never forgot a lesson she taught us, because we were always tricked into repeating history. But thankfully learning from it. To sum it up, class demolished a cake of Africa, realized we were industrialized Europe. I had a chemistry teacher who was demonstrating liquid nitrogen and stuck his gloved hand straight into the flask. He brought it out, put it onto the desk and smashed it with a hammer into 1,000 bits in front of the class. We all sat there with our mouths open looking at all the red fragments of his hand thinking, WTF? What did he just do? One of the girls even fainted. Turns out he'd filled a glove up with tomato ketchup and hidden his real hand behind it. I had a teacher that pulled my lefts all the time self aside and told me he can see right through my rebellious bull malarkey. Don't not worry about any of these tuckers. He said about the class behind us, this malarkey would not matter in 2 years. He said he'd give me a minimum passing grade if I promised to join the debate team the following year. That summer he died of cancer. I made good on my promise and joined the debate team. Lincoln Douglas. I won every debate except for 2 and took home a first place trophy for 4 out of the 5 tournaments I went to. I won best speaker at all of them. I got my malarkey together and went on to graduate from college a few years later with a 4.0 GPA, and I'm on a very different path than I was originally heading. Out of all of the lessons learned in my 12 years of public school, that 5-minute talk was the only one that mattered. has in the back of my mind during every presentation, every job interview, and any time I need to take a step back and question everything. To sum it up, a teacher pulled my head out of my ass and changed my life forever. 9th grade English. Skinny old bald English guy would jump up on the desks and reenact over the top sword duels while the class would be reading Shakespeare. Relevant story here. My 6th grade teacher would randomly jump on top of his desk and play hot lava using our desks to get from one end of the room to the other. Dude was freaking awesome. One up. Mine would play hot lava on the desks while playing the guitar. Mine would tap dance on the desks. He even had a cane and a top hat just for the occasion. My physics professor in college had been getting really annoyed with students using laptops in class. On the day when he had been demonstrating liquid nitrogen, he walked over to someone in the front row and said, "Here, I'll show you another liquid nitrogen use." Took the kid's laptop and covered it in liquid nitrogen. Everyone oohed and ahed and could not believe it. He then took it out and threw it on the ground, shattering it, then kept teaching as if nothing happened. I had gotten there early that day and had seen the two talking before class. I put 2 and 2 together and realized they had obviously staged it, but it was never discussed. My geography teacher was teaching us about icebergs in Norway today. He came in with a bedsheet over his head and had an entire presentation pretending to be a talking iceberg. I'm in high school. It was awesome. I had a teacher who would buy us all coffee and donuts about once a month. All out of his own pocket too. That was pretty cool. And one time, he ordered a bunch of pizzas too. That was at Christmas, I believe. Again, out his pocket. English 10th grade. Second week of school. We all came into class to get our tests back, and the teacher is standing at the front of class just glaring at us. As we sat down, he begins to explain that several students cheated on the last test. The next 60 minutes are filled with a lecture on the importance of academic honesty and how disappointed he is. He gives everyone a small slip of paper at the end and asks, "If you saw anybody cheating last class, I want you to write their name down. You will get extra credit for correctly naming a student." I know who cheated. At this point everyone is freaking out. I had not looked up from my test last class, so I wrote that I saw no one cheat. 5 minutes later, after he has collected the papers, he says, "Thank you all for your compliance in today's lesson. You have just completed an exercise to examine yourselves." Nobody had cheated. He just wanted to see if we would make up people's names at a chance of exoneration. To sum it up, teacher induct us into outing students for cheating when no one did anything. I had a teacher who kept a rock on his desk. One day a kid took something too far, and my teacher picked up the rock and threw it at him. It was like slow motion. The kid's face changed from smug to raw terror. The rock hit him in the head and bounced right back off. It was foam. My teacher had been keeping a foam paperweight on his desk the whole year, anticipating this moment. The kid sat there wide-eyed and breathing heavily for about a minute, and the class erupted in laughter. My teacher pulled that same trick, but he had 2 more. Anytime someone would say something grammatically incorrect, he would let any student run over and pick up a spray bottle and spray them. He also had an old pineapple grenade from WWII that he pulled the pin on and tossed to a kid. Kid freaked out and dropped it. It had been disarmed earlier. I burst out laughing a good 10 seconds before the rest of the class realized WTF had happened. That was a good day. I had a marine biology teacher that would let me use animals from alive tanks as hall passes. Crabs and sea anemones made killer hall passes. I had an English teacher in high school who had us rip up our papers we had just written and deposit them into a compost pile so that hopefully our malarkey could turn into something useful one day. I'm sure this seems fairly boring in comparison, but I have a law professor who actually teaches litigation strategy through practical application. Though this ISN not probably nearly as fun as things other teachers have done in this thread. This guy definitely deserves his props. He talks about old cases has handled, the mistakes he made, and how to properly put a case through from start to finish. Compare it to professors who teach you just theory, with zero reference to practical application. The first thing this guy said is that he has a book on the syllabus for us to buy, but he knows none of us will read it. So do not bother if we do not want to. I learned more from this guy in 4 months, teaching from personal experience, than I have from any other professor thus far in law school or undergrad. Got in touch with my dad and pulled me out of failing his math class in 5th grade. He talked to my dad about what could possibly be causing me to fail, and he worked with me one-on-one during work time every once in a while. It was partly because I was too shy to ask questions, and we worked through that. I passed, and both him and my dad told me they were proud and knew I could do it. Got some teary eyes typing that. Mr. Down was awesome. My old high school business teacher took me out to dinner a couple times and paid me to help her move stuff from her old house to her new house. One day she invited me to her house and cooked dinner. I walked in the house and Marvin Gaye was playing on her stereo. Graduated in '08. This happened this year. Last 5 days of every infotech class I took. Counter-Strike and Unreal Tournament LAN party. That and him convincing me to go into computer science by showing how awesome/stupid computers are. Would not be where I'm without him. In 6th grade, my cute teacher announced that there will be a grand prize of Gamma Cube to whoever's name was chosen at the end of the quarter. Each time you finish reading a book and write a summary, you get a lottery ticket. So the more you read, the more lottery tickets you'll get. At that time, I really wanted a video game system. My family was poor, and of course can't afford that malarkey. So I started reading these mini books like crazy, and got several lottery tickets every week. This was an ESL class, so there's not much competition. And my classmates pretty much gave up, since I was so much ahead. In the end, I got the Gamma Cube. I do not know if she actually did the raffle or just pretty much gave it to me, because I was the hardest worker. I enjoyed it. Mainly Super Smash Bros. For a good 4-5 years till sometimes in high school. Keep in mind that she bought the Gamma Cube using her own pocket money. It's so rare to have a nice teacher like that. And, now that I think about it, she was so cute and hot. Cannot seem to get a hold of her now though. My history teacher was a complete nutbag sometimes. One time, he got up and assumed some kind of strange kung fu like stance while loudly shouting HYAAA. He then proceeded to violently kick an iron cabinet in the front of the classroom. The entire class went dead silent and watched him slowly walk to his desk to get a pencil. He walked back to the cabinet and put a stripe on the exact spot he kicked the thing, saying, "Next time it will be higher." The class was too shocked and in awe of this magnificent randomness to even break out in laughter. By far the best thing that I ever saw a teacher do. You have made it until the end of this video. Now listen here, and listen here closely. Like and subscribe for more curated content from Mr. Edit Man. Thanks for watching.